Hi Luxury Home Show, I'm Natalie Glaze and this is my house in southwest London. Come on in for a tour. It's an old house. It's like a really, it hadn't been touched for about 70 years. And I was like, it's such a beautiful old home with so much history. I wanted to make sure I kind of brought in lots of textures and vintage pieces. Welcome to my pride and joy. I just think it's such a beautiful space and it has this like really lovely dappled light throughout the day. Okay, so next room is actually my favourite room of the whole house. So I want to introduce you to my dressing room. Come on in. Welcome to my hallway. So this was the latest thing I did. I wanted to kind of go for that checkerboard Victorian home, but go for something that wasn't too like bright white and a little bit more almost aged looking. So kind of went for a limestone tile, which I love. This was one of the original kind of mirrors in the house. And then I have all the original doors. So trying to like bring in a bit of old and new. So I've been living here for 2.5 years. So when I first bought it, there was no central heating. The electrics were absolutely not safe. The floor was rotten. The ceilings were falling down. So it needed a fair bit of work. But I feel like the hallway is always the last thing you do because obviously you're renovating the whole house. But it's also the first impression. So very important. It was quite depressing after 2 years opening the door and it just being like, oh, still a building site, still a building. So I'm really thrilled to have a nice hallway. So I fell in love with the character of this house. When I first viewed it, I didn't actually want a renovation project this big, but I loved the features, all the period features are all up here, like these little faces, which some people say are a bit spooky, but I think they're cute. I've kind of gone for like a kind of warm, earthy, soft palette. So I wanted to bring in a little stair runner. I've gone like really dark brown. So in terms of colours, because I feel like I always get asked about paint colours, this is shadow white on the walls. And then I actually can't remember the name of this one, which is absolutely useless because I just said I was going to say paint colours, but it's like a really dark brown Farrow Bull. Almost black, but kind of has that softer, warmer tone, which I really like. Welcome to my kitchen. So I finished the kitchen renovation last October, so it's basically been a year. That was pretty much a tiny little pokey kitchen. Wasn't really usable, very dark space, so I kind of wanted to do, so extended out and also to the side, so there's a side return as well. Designed it with my dad, so my dad is an architect, which is very, very handy when you're doing a house renovation, and he has some very good points. But in terms of like the design and the colour, I'll talk you through. I wanted a elevated island because I was just in London, there's a certain size you can go to in terms of kitchen extensions. So I wanted to be able to, when you walk in the kitchen, you could see all of the floor underneath, and in my mind it kind of gives an impression of a slightly larger room. Went for a dark green, so the cabinets are studio green by Farrow & Bull. And my last home, I had a dark blue kitchen, but this house, I think because there's like such a nice garden and there's loads of apple trees and pear trees, it just felt like a kind of greenier, earthier palette, felt more aligned with the house, you know what I mean? And then a quartz worktop. So it's Arabescato Cremo, which is the type of quartz it is. And I love it because it's got such nice veining. And I wanted a backsplash that went all the way up with a little floating shelf. Not for practical reasons, just because I like a vintage piece and I like to make my shelves look pretty. And I went for quartz. One, budget-wise, it's just a lot more affordable. And two, it's just really hard wearing. I do love marble. I'm obsessed with marble, but I just couldn't afford it after doing a house renovation. You have to budget somewhere, but I'm really happy with this. It's an old house. It's like it hadn't been touched for about 70 years. And I was like, it's such a beautiful old home with so much history. I wanted to make sure I kind of brought in lots of textures and vintage pieces and like those kind of warmer, softer pieces that made it kind of work better with the original house. Obviously it's quite new and there's like crittle doors and there's lots of quite modern features. So I was like, how do I balance that kind of old and new, which is something I really love in interior design and architecture. Talking of old and new, this is one of my favourite pieces. So this is actually an old vintage school cupboard, which is now my coffee station. I love kind of how almost beaten up it looked. And then I've got like almost right next to it, a floating glass window seat, which is very, very modern. So I love the two of them together. I was thinking about having a modern cabinet there, the same as these kitchens, but I just thought how much nicer to have an old, beautiful piece of furniture, and it just kind of softens the whole vibe. I'm gonna put some cushions in here, drink my morning coffee, and it looks out into the courtyard, which is one of my favorite features of the whole kitchen renovation. And on that, I definitely want to show you the courtyard because it is my favorite. But whilst we're here, this is a side return. I know I keep saying it, but I really wanted it to have elements of like nodding to the old house. But this put in as many lights as possible because I wanted it to be like a very light, glowy kitchen. This dining table is made from like reclaimed wood from like this amazing local artisan that's kind of near London. And then come on through to the courtyard. Welcome to my pride and joy. When I was kind of thinking about the kitchen extension, I said earlier that my dad's my architect, and he mentioned having a kind of little private courtyard in between the dining room and the new kitchen extension. And his kind of thought process was it'll add a lot more natural light to both rooms, because often in old Victorian homes, when you add a extension, you end up having this kind of corridor area that means that your dining room hasn't got any natural light really, because there's no windows. In London, with terraced houses, none of the gardens are that private, and I loved how that idea of having this kind of little tiny private space within the house. Like there's still access to the kitchen and living room inside, but this is like a separate access. You can have all the doors open. I just think it's such a beautiful space, and it has this like really lovely dappled light throughout the day. And then I went for the kind of Spanish courtyard vibes, went for like terracotta tiles. I love the little mixture of the sizes and the style. It's a great space. I'm so glad because it doesn't take much away from the square footage, but adds like that point of interest, which I love. Okay, so welcome to my living room and dining room. This house is very much not finished in terms of renovation. I'm kind of like 3/4 of the way through. As you can see, there isn't much furniture in here, but for me, I wanted to make sure in this renovation that I got it all to like a really beautiful base that I was really happy with. And then you can add texture and layers through furniture, vintage pieces. Like I wanted to take my time with the renovation and not rush anything. Choose pieces like carefully, live in the space, see how I used it, see how the light worked. So these two rooms were separate before. This was a master bedroom. This was I think this was the living room. And I opened up the two rooms, so I wanted a lot more natural light. So there's quite a lot of dark spaces in here. Kept all the original doors, all of the cornice that's around, like the ceiling roses, all of those are original. And like the ceilings were falling down, and I was like, we have to save the ceiling roses. There is no way we can get rid of those original features. Like they are so beautiful. Added in a bit of like warmth through bookshelves. I love reading. My parents' house is literally filled. Every wall is a bookshelf in my parents' house. And I definitely got that love of reading from them. This is my bookshelf, which I have been slowly filling. I read quite quickly and a lot. So this was like here when I first moved in, and it's just like... I also love books because I think they bring a bit of colour and bring a bit of warmth to a space, and it makes it look homely and lived in. All of these fireplaces are original. Added in the shelves, added in the log burner because this was a coal fire. It is like a big drafty old house, like they haven't got any insulation, it's basically brick. And I really wanted to keep the original floors in this house. Like when I moved in, I was like, I'm keeping every original feature I can. That was the goal. And the floors, I was like, there are no under these grey carpets, there's some original floorboards. Pulled them all up and I was like, oh my God, they're stunning. Started sanding them down, realised they're all rotten. Fell through about 15. The builders were falling through them constantly and just realised they absolutely couldn't be saved. So I ended up putting this kind of chevron in. I use it again in my last renovation and it's just a lovely colour. It's that neutral and I just think it looks beautiful in here, and I've used that in the kitchen as well, so then it like flows through. But obviously the real star of this whole house renovation tour is Bosco. Not the house, it's Bosco for sure. So this is my dog Bosco. He is a little rescue from Cyprus. So he was a street dog, begging for food at restaurants, and he just loves a cuddle, and he is literally the best dog ever. And he loves the camera as well, actually. So he'll be featured throughout the whole renovation. So I would say he loves a cuddle, loves a stroke, loves the camera, hates the postman. That's his personality. Okay, so that's actually it for the ground floor. The only thing I haven't shown you is there is a toilet downstairs, like a little mini WC that's part of the kitchen extension. But I probably won't show you that for now. We'll go upstairs and I'll show you the rest of the house. So welcome to my spare bedroom. The vibe was calm and soothing. So I've gone for kind of this nice earthy olivey green, lots of wood elements. We've got like a bell side table. I've got kind of rattan. It's not fully finished, There's little elements that need doing, like the light shade needs switching, but majority of it's done. I've got like lots of linen. I love a linen, like lots of like natural fibres. I've actually done that in the bedrooms for that kind of softer, because I couldn't save the flooring up here in this room. So I put down, I wanted to get a sisal. That was my plan. But so many people were saying, actually, if it, got stains on it, I have a dog, it's really hard to kind of get out. And actually you want to look something a little bit more hard wearing. So I went for this, which is kind of like a hard wearing version of sisal. I think the company's called Unnatural Flooring, and it's like this kind of herringbone vibe, which I think works really nicely with the green, with those kind of natural, softer textures. Welcome to my bathroom, which was actually the first room I did in this house. So it's like a shower room. I wanted it to almost feel like a walk-in shower. It's a very neutral room, and I wanted a kind of statement marble piece that had this like beautiful veining through that was almost like a piece of art in itself. So chose the marble and found a really amazing company on Etsy that handmade marble sinks, and went for the kind of unlacquered brass when it comes to like the taps, so then it like almost becomes more aged over time in a way. Lots of brass, lots of neutrals, limestone floor, big walk-in shower. Actually went from micro cement in the shower, so there's actually no tiles, so it kind of feels like it flows. And I hadn't even heard of micro cement before, and I wanted this kind of almost spa-like feel in here. It's a great room, and it's like the best shower ever, so thrilled. Okay, so next room is actually my favourite room of the whole house. So I want to introduce you to my dressing room. Come on in. This is a room that I was like kind of going for, again, quite neutral, kind of touch of the pink. I wanted to make sure I brought in lots of vintage pieces. So this is a vintage dressing table that I sourced. I love the marble. It has kind of touches of red, almost like reddy purples throughout, which I feel like went really well with the paint colours. And on the wardrobes, we've kind of got this like Dead Salmon by Farrow & Ball, which is that kind of like softer, brownier, muddier pink. And I just like love that against a lot of the kind of tones of the pieces I've got in here. I've got this old French like bath stand, which is like an old wooden one, which I just love. A bit of terracotta, some vases. This whole room, all of the original features had almost been taken out, and it was just like this blue modern box, which felt really kind of a bit jarring against the rest of the very beautiful old historic home. So I wanted to kind of reinstate that, put in an old fireplace, and then have this kind of built-in dressing room that everyone thinks has been built in, and like, but actually they're IKEA. So I went for the whole IKEA packs hack and built a base. And then this actual main bit is just an IKEA wardrobe, and then added in kind of really nice handles, cornice, a little bit of just kind of that, almost like moulding to make it look like it's built in. So I've done that on all of the wardrobes around, which I feel like makes such a difference. Just having it like elevated and having them not on the floor, it just feels like makes them look a bit more premium and built in, but saves so much money. So yeah, this is my dream room. Okay, so this is the main bedroom, which is probably one of the like least done rooms of the house, but it's quite a nice base that my plan is to add more pieces of furniture, bring it to life a little bit. Like it's quite a large room and kind of feels quite empty at the moment, but I feel like the bones of it are really good, you know what I mean? A few things that I've done in here was, this is the only room I managed to save the original floors, which I was thrilled about because they are beautiful. So I managed to sand these ones down, and they just come up so nicely, and I just feel like they bring so much warmth, and I love that one room of the house I managed to save the floors. I was like, there will be one room with original floors, but yeah, loved those. And then this room had a coal fire, like lots of the other rooms in the house, but it had so much soot everywhere. So I took out the coal fire, because obviously it didn't need that, now have central heating, and got this marble fireplace from a reclamation yard. And I just feel like it almost looks like it's always been there, which was obviously the plan. Kind of like a calming, soft, which I keep saying, but like that was the whole vibe of this house, was like neutral, earthy, calming, and then you bring texture through like beautiful old vintage pieces, and bringing in lots of kind of different, like whether it's marble, whether it's wood, whether it's an old school cabinet, having those like points of interest, like for me was really important. So this is kind of like the main feature of the whole bedroom, but I love this space, and it is such a lovely room, and everyone who walks in is like, it has such a nice feel in there, and like it does. But it needs, yeah, a little bits and bobs kind of being added, but like there's no rush with stuff like that for me. Okay, so that was it for the house tour. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you like seeing kind of what I've done so far in the renovation. If there's anything I've missed, like paint colours, flooring, you can find me on Instagram at Natalie Glaze. Ask away, slide into my DMs. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, thank you so much.
Bye. Hi Luxury Home Show, I'm Laura, a designer and founder of Grove England. Welcome to my home in the Cotswolds. Come on in.